Steve Jobs famously, when he came back to Apple, his biggest complaint about the company under its horrible management for the previous 8 years was that they'd come out with a new computer and they'd try to make every feature, 50% better, and the whole computer was, or 10% better, and the whole computer was 50% worse. And the point is, it takes so long to make one single feature better, actually better for the whole world.
Hello, fellow data nerds. My guest today is Mark Pincus. Mark is the founder and former CEO of Zynga, which pioneered social gaming and developed some of the most popular mobile games of all time, like Farmville and Worlds with Friends. The company went public in 2011 and was acquired by Take-Two Interactive in 2022 for about $3 billion or so. Prior to
Actually,
Zynga,
13 billion or so.
Sorry, I meant to say 13 billion or so.
Left a one off.
My apologies.
Made a big difference to our shareholders.
Very big difference. Yeah, 10x. Sorry about that. That's me always underplaying you. And prior to Zynga, Mark founded a number of internet companies, including Tribe.com, one of the earliest social networks. He was also an early investor in Facebook. And today he runs Reinvent Capital, which teaches product management at Stanford. Mark, welcome to World of DaaS.
Thanks.
Now, you have this cool framework that I love that's it says proven, better, new, which is kind of the simplest formula I've ever seen for success. Can you walk us through it a little bit?
Sure. So the basis of my whole product management course, I created 9 years ago at Stanford, and I'm writing a book on this now called Life at the Speed of Play, there's two fundamental philosophies that make up my approach. And in one way or another, most, at least consumer, but even B2B product makers' approach to inventing products. One is, I have this core belief that I've found to be true, that we have these winning instincts that at some human level of your experience, and we put on top of those usually losing ideas. And the key is we need to isolate our winning instincts from our usually losing ideas. And so the point is that you might have, quote unquote, an idea for some new product, and maybe you never pursue it. Maybe you pursue it and it's a B plus and it never makes it. Somebody else seems to pursue the same idea and theirs makes it. So what happened? Well, my analysis of that is that someone like me, you, Warren, we have ideas all the time. I had an idea to order a taxi through my phone in 2003. So it was early. And I registered smstaxi.com. And I did the analysis and I said, maybe I could get 1 million riders a month and I could get paid $1 per ride from the taxi company. So I thought the best instantiation of that might be $12 million a year and working with terrible taxi companies, and I scrapped the idea. Well, Travis went and did my idea. No, he did my instinct. And a lot of other things, clicked into place to enable that to have a moment that weren't there in 2003, like the iPhone and GPS. But he had a much better idea to let anybody become a driver and just sidestep the taxi companies altogether. So the first concept is really try to isolate your instinct in its rawest form from the idea variant that you're putting on top of it, and be dispassionate about your ideas. You and I have known so many entrepreneurs over the years, Oren, who we see kind of valiantly, stoically going down with the ship, right? They have this B plus business, and year after year, you see them pursuing it, and you're like, why are you still doing it? It's like a friend in a bad relationship. You're like, just end it already. And so that's one point that I try to get across to people, because if you can be dispassionate about your ideas.
And that's part of the proven is just like trying to figure out what's the proven piece of the proven better new, right?
Yeah. All right, you move me along. So once you buy into this instincts versus ideas, it opens up a new world of product management. And what you can then do is apply this framework that I call proven better new, which is, think of it as your job is to be a scientist in a white lab coat you're dispassionately trying to isolate this winning variant of your instinct and your idea. And the reason you do proven better new is what you do with it is you say, okay, if I wanted to compete with Uber today, I would start with everything that's proven that you shouldn't fuck with. So, and Steve Jobs famously, when he came back to Apple, his biggest complaint about the company under its horrible management for the previous 8 years was that they'd come out with a new computer and they'd try to make every feature, 50% better, and the whole computer was, or 10% better, and the whole computer was 50% worse. And the point is, it takes so long to make one single feature better, actually better for the whole world, that you couldn't possibly have time to make the printer drivers and the email and all the things better. And so what you need to do, if I was going to try to create a competitor to Uber today, which I think someone actually should, I would say, what is proven about the experience? I wouldn't fuck with the app for the most part, with the idea of the drivers, with the independent drivers. But I might say, what could I make better? And better is something that 9 or 10 out of 10 of the current users say, fuck yeah. Not what you believe is better, but it's what every user would say, fuck yeah. Cheaper. Everyone's going to say, fuck yeah, cheaper.
Yeah.
Faster. Yeah, fuck yeah. I think people might say, a professional driver or a nicer car is a fuck yeah, but I don't know that to be true. So it could be new.
Yeah.
Right. New is your novel idea that is completely unproven, and you should assume it's going to fail. And one of my mantras is all new fails. If you isolate the new to maybe 20% of your product, then there's a good chance that your product will be commercially successful, even when your new idea fails. And you won't get, a false negative signal. So what you might do is have a actually good new idea, but because you tried to make everything else in your product new and it wasn't better, your product failed and you never had a chance to test your new idea.
Yeah, so you have the proven, so that's going to work. Okay, Uber is a good business. If we made it cheaper and faster, like more people would want it. And then I've got this new sizzle on it. And now we're only going to do one thing. We're going to introduce one thing to it.
Yeah.
And then we're going to figure out, we know the proven, we know the better. And then it's either going to work or not. And we should be able to isolate that pretty quickly. But if we had
four other
things,
ideas,
we wouldn't be able to do. So you do them in series rather than parallel.
Yeah. And if you do this well, it's like a time machine. So rather than, with tribe.net, I pursued one idea really on top of 3 or 4 great instincts, and I never tried another idea. Even after Zuck walked in my office in 2004, and I was like, fuck, he's got this right. He got trust right. I still didn't change anything. I was like, oh, he got it. So I invested in him. Great. But I still was like this stoic, falsely courageous entrepreneur who went down with the ship. With Zynga, I didn't do that. I actually, ironically, got Zynga right with my first idea and first instinct, but I was much less ambitious than I was with Tribe. So if you go back to my first poker game and say, what was my proven, my better, and my new? Proven was poker.
Yep.
I copied the game of poker.
Yeah.
I took.
Everyone knows. people like it. They like to play it. It's popular.
I didn't change a thing. I didn't change the rules. I didn't change what the table looked like. Okay. Better was no download. Would you rather have this download to your computer or no download? 10 out of 10 people, you can prove this because you lose half your audience the minute you ask them to click on a download. So it's statistically and obviously provable that
you can get in the game right away, boom.
Yeah, you get it right away, right? And the reason I was able to do that is it was not for real money, so I didn't care about security, so I didn't have to have a download. Okay, and new was the new thing was real friends and real people at the table instead of these weird, cringy avatars. It used to be you pick between 6 avatars. You don't know who it was. That turned out to be right. Okay, so I got it right on my first try, but I was disciplined and not very ambitious. We're usually too ambitious in our product. We try to do too much innovation at once. And I'm the most guilty of that.
So if we were going to build a movie together, let's say we're doing a romantic comedy. Okay, there's proven guy meets girl, guy loses girl, guy gets girl back at the end or something, right? That's the proven arc of all those
Let's go
movies.
to even more proven, Oren. This is why all you see is sequels, and it's always with the A-list stars. We just ran into Adam Sandler this weekend. He was in our hotel, and my daughter courageously went up and talked to him. We'd go get Adam Sandler. We'd literally take some movie,
Right.
formulaic movie he's done. We'd get him because he has a proven audience. We would just make it as tight to what worked. We'd spend more money, but the likelihood of success would be much higher.
And then we'd come up with some new twist on it or some new thing, which could be a distribution thing for a movie,
Yeah.
or it could be some other kind of like something really cool in the product or something like that.
Yeah, or and you could literally look at a case study of Quibi. I don't know if you remember Quibi,
of course.
What Jeffrey Katzenberg did. And they just did new on so many fronts.
Right.
No
it
one
was
ever
like
watched
400
movie on
new,
iPhone.
and then TikTok came out. I was like, oh, actually, that was
No,
just
but they
like
were
that was the
trying
right
to, but they were kind of trying to be a streaming service that could compete with Netflix.
Yeah.
But they said it's going to be short form, 10 minutes on your iPhone, all new content. And I was like, that's not, if you look at what Ted Turner did with Turner Classic Movies, he just said, I'm going to give you a free channel that dad supported on cable that has movies that I already know you like. Do you want to watch?
Yeah.
It's just free.
Yeah.
It's older, but free.
Yeah.
And it's the simpler ideas like that are just, much less risky.
Right. And so if you think of like a Magic Leap or something like that, which, presumably had these incredibly smart people, all these innovations, but like never was able to come out with like the killer thing. And your contention was they're just trying to do too much new.
Yeah. With Magic Leap and Oculus, the obvious thing was video games, right?
Yeah.
You can't, it's incredibly risky and really foolhardy to bet on a new consumer behavior. It's arrogant. So people already play video games. That had huge potential to deliver better video game experiences. Yeah. Start there. Yeah, go after reinventing, architecture or whatever you want, but they don't put goggles on to have an architecture meeting. The chances of somebody being willing to put goggles on for an amazing immersive video game experience, were just much, much higher. So, make it easier for yourself.
Yeah. It's funny because like I like one thing is really fun to do that everyone likes to do is like watch a movie on the plane. Right.
Yeah.
Like, why can't you just have like simple goggles you put on, and it has like this immersive experience. It tethers to your phone. Your phone's the one like streaming whatever, Netflix, whatever it is on it, or the United Airlines app. And just like, it would just be great. It doesn't do anything else. It's just kind of simple, but like everyone, like people like watching movies on the plane, like something like that. Or I'm not a consumer guy,
I don't think you or I would do it because the reality is we kind of barely even think to like bring our iPad, and it's kind of good enough. So
right.
You just have to be careful.
Yeah, you might be right. Yeah.
Is it that much?
Is it that much better?
You want to go through all
it's a good point. Yeah, it's a good point. Now, play is like part of what you do, I think, really well is like you do play, and play is important. And in some ways, it's so obvious in B2C that play is important, but it could actually be even more powerful in B2B. Like, how would you attack B2B with something playful? If you're enjoying this podcast, please sign up for our newsletter. Go to worldofdas.com. The link is in the description below. Now back to the video.
Let's just even say fun.
Yeah, fun. Yeah.
So I would just say that the human experience of computing, of interacting with a device, with a software interface, it's the same whether it's for the most complex,
accounting software or something.
Accounting software. Yeah, I was trying to think of the most arcane, but whatever CRM thing I will never use, but SAP app I couldn't understand. Any of those doesn't really matter whether it's that, or it's a video game. At the end of the day, bless you. At the end of the day, that you just don't need the dogs to want to eat the dog food and not be
Yeah.
forced. And so, I think it's a great example if you look at Slack, right? Like
Slack's fun.
Stuart,
Yeah.
Slack. So Stuart, it was a failed video game company, and
Yeah.
right, and you know the story, and they, just on the side built this app for themselves. But because they brought this consumer video game mentality, it put this veneer on it of the experience that just made everyone in your organization want to use it. And inside Zynga, I was like, I don't get it. We have, I think, something called Hip Chat.
Right. Totally. With all these other free tools. Yeah.
Yeah. And everyone insisted on Slack, and half the engineers were rolling their eyes and everyone else loved it. But Slack kind of took over the world for no real technical reason, right?
Yeah. It wasn't technically better. It's just way more fun to use.
Yeah. And then
it got better.
And I think that's a really underexplored area. And even I built an enterprise software company called support.com that we took public. And let me give it to you an even more basic, like, I think maybe your sales forces could understand this idea. Even if you don't buy into fun, you buy into usage, okay?
Yeah.
So with support.com, our sales didn't take off. We had an amazing ROI. So we had this software that could magically resolve 10% of your help desk break fix problems remotely, and it was magic. But that's 10%. And so the help desk wasn't going to keep it on the front of their, screen and think to use it if it applied to 10% of their problems. It was this tool they had to remember to take out. What did we do? We put in chat and a really, really shitty help desk system that came with every other product. It was nowhere near as good as Remedy. That's when our sales took off, because all of a sudden we applied to every ticket, right?
Yeah.
And it's a non-intuitive point. It's about, can we put in something that gets them to use us all the time, every day? And you see it in consumer mobile, that if you have, there's a completely direct correlation between frequency of usage, frequency even per day. If you have 10 or 20 sessions a day using your app, your long-term retention is going to be much higher.
Yeah.
I'm positive that's going to be true with a B2B app as well, right? That if you're in it, it's
100%.
To its Slack, right? If you're living in this app, the likelihood you want to use it in a year is also much higher.
Yeah, and you're proven better new. Like, the better just could be fun. It's like, okay, proven. Everyone buys these apps, whatever whatever they are. It's in every enterprise. Everyone buys them, and now we're just gonna take it from like an experience that people dread to an experience that people enjoy.
And you can, and I'll say two things real quick on that. One is a great example of a proven better new, in this space is I think this company from David Sachs is called Glue. Have you heard of that?
I don't think I know it.
Wait, I might have the name wrong, but it's a proven better new against Slack, and the new is AI. So It's like, hey, do you want Slack, but now it's AI and kind of a virtual knowledge base inside your company that will search, all this stuff and bring it up. And it's just, do you want to buy Slack with AI?
Yeah.
And I think there's, and we just got pitched to my family office a product called Canoe that's basically like a ghetto at a par, but with AI and cheaper.
Yep.
And the team liked it. And, and Joe Lonsdale just said to me, no, don't buy it, because we have the same AI coming out soon. But so there's
by the way, has anyone on this call ever used Adapar? Like, it's terrible. It's so bad. Now, I mean, it might be created for the wealth manager, but for the wealthy consumer who's using it. I agree with
you. And the pricing,
it's absolutely the worst app. Like, it's
so funny you say that. I just had dinner with Joe Monday night, and
sorry, Joe, by the way.
I wasn't as harsh as you, but I said it produces some nice reports, but it's overkill for someone like us. It's great for a hedge fund or, an institution, but for a family office or a small fund, it's overkill. And the pricing, at least that they give me, is based on a percentage of your assets. And I'm like,
what?
That's fucking crazy.
It is?
I should lie about my assets.
Oh, that's crazy. That doesn't make any sense.
And take a zero off and he said, oh, they're just not giving you, the best pricing. And so a free Easter egg for anyone listening is I'm interested as a user, and I would look at investing in someone who wants to knock off Adapar and just make it for this lower end of the market. It's still a high market, but
and also like make it useful, make it fun, like being able to like run easy reports and do things, ask quick questions to it, so you don't have to email your wealth manager or whatever. Like,
help me on my asset allocation, right? Give me a really quick. There's so much easy knowledge you could pull in.
Yeah,
and of course you could upsell. You could kind of do a rippling. Is that the name of the company?
Yeah, rippling.
You could actually even make it free for qualified people. You could make freemium, and then you could upsell, a lot of products. So, and I don't get why it's so expensive. I mean, other than he's trying to solve for really high end and really a huge number of obscure, high end requirements that we don't have.
Yeah. Now, I think every successful founder has a superpower. Some of which, some people are great at engineering, some people are great at marketing, some people are great at sales. Like yours is clearly product. When you're when you're interviewing other people to join your company or to potentially invest in them, how do you assess their product chops in a short time frame?
Well, I have two answers. First is I'll tell you what I do, and the second is I'll say I'm not very good at interviewing and assessing up front. And so I have a hack for it that I'll give your listeners. So the first answer is I go through a process and I have a team around me that has people do deconstructs. So we look at apps we admire, we're thinking about. A lot of times games, it's even if you're not doing anything to do with games or consumer, games are the best to test someone's ability to deconstruct and break an app down into every one of these core I call them mechanics that make up the overall experience. And what I'm looking for is, do you go down to the pixel level of that experience?
Yeah.
Do you question every single click?
So you almost like show them something like, what do you like, or what would you improve, that type of thing? Or
well, then first, can you deconstruct? Can you take Slack? Okay, deconstruct Slack.
Yeah.
Tell me what do you think are the proven things about Slack? What makes Slack so great as a product? And give it to me at the pixel level and the click by click level. Then if you were going to do something better and new today, what would that be? So I want to see, what are your product chops? Like how good are you at that kind of analytical thinking? The second answer I'll give you is something I call my book, The Talent Myth. And I've given some talks at Y Combinator and other places. And I don't know if this is a little bit controversial, but I think this is true. We all hear that like your founding team, beyond like your couple co-founders, but once you try to scale your team past 3 or 4, we all hear every single hire matters and you should, go for world-class people. But most of us, including me, every single thing I do in the beginning is flaky. It doesn't matter. Every time I try to convince someone to join a new thing I'm doing, it just sounds flaky. And think about Zynga, I'd had so many successes and it still sounded so flaky. I don't know if you remember back then, Oren, but I'm sure if you really honestly think back to 2007, that you were, along with all my peers, nobody was impressed that I was making a poker app for Facebook. Nobody, including me. And so I couldn't recruit anybody with an A+ golden resume. And so what do you do as a founder? Because that's where most of us are.
Yeah, of course.
Right? There's something I call the talent myth. I think that this idea that you can go recruit these amazing people, I think is a myth. You don't have time. So what I did then, and I would still advise doing, is don't let I say both, don't let an A be the enemy of getting something done. So go for a B+. Like go for what I call a broken resume.
Yeah.
Get somebody, And
And
over,
what, I mean, what, like, I guess like someone could have, they could be, a B, but they could be like super passionate about what you're doing. Like, is
oh
that
yeah,
get you
no,
over
but
the
they're
line? Like,
not.
what do you, or they could just be like hardworking and passionate, but like maybe not
But
that great. Or,
they wouldn't normally make the cut. So for instance, here's one of my hacks, okay, that I still do. But in the early Facebook days, I just wanted someone who was good at Flash and knew anything about games, okay? And so I looked through the Facebook app directory at failed Flash apps.
yeah.
I just was like, is it nice looking Flash? Is it snappy and good graphics? And then I would reach out to the developer because no one else was. I mean, these were apps with
Yeah.
like 100 DAUs or less.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'd get messages right back. And I would hire them as contractors by the hour, and that's how I found Justin Waldron. He was 18 years old. He was living on his mom's couch in Connecticut, and he had made a failed Flash app for Facebook. And I hired him by the hour, and he worked for me remotely for 6 months before I moved him to San Francisco, and I made him part of my founding team. I also said everyone I hired in 2007, it was like 35 people. I called them founding team members. They call themselves co-founders today. Good for them. So
Yeah.
Zynga has
Yeah.
35 co-founders. It motivated them more, right? It got more out of them. And it's good to have 35 people who think of themselves as founders. But my point is, I had a really wide funnel and I was willing to hire anybody. And I used hiring as an interview process. So I just would hire them as contractors, and then I'd find some diamonds in the rough, but I'd go really broad. And today it's like, go find failed mobile apps you like. You're trying to break into, consumer apps on Telegram. Go find failed Telegram apps that are nicely done. But if you're in a B2B area, it's if they have it's kind of a broken resume. If they've worked on a failing but nicely done app, it just means a bad strategy, but they might have all the skills you need and be highly available.
Now, a couple of product things I'd love you to get your riff on. Okay, so one thing is fun for a lot of people is shopping. Shopping is just fun. And it's enjoyable and it's kind of exciting to find deals. It's exciting to find new things and stuff like that. And we're starting to see these like AI shopping agents. Perplexity has one now. There's other ones out there. Like how do you think that's going to evolve in a way to like keep it fun and exciting?
Well, it's a good question. I think what you're calling fun, I would just deconstruct that
Okay.
feeling a little bit more, Oren. So what we have to pull out of that is novelty versus fun. Okay.
Right.
I think there's a big part of what you're saying is it feels novel today. And you have to say, like, think about what's in that. Okay, shopping. Well, what is it about that? Is it just that shopping is fun, or is it that you're taking something that's kind of tedious and now, bless you, and now you're taking something novel that you want to spend more, you want to play with AI and agents.
Yeah.
But when it's new and novel, that's good enough. So we're in discovery mode. So that's one thing I just want to call it. Always ride that wave, okay? You could have the most boring as fuck product, but if you put an AI agent in front of it right now, it's novel, and someone says, ooh, what is that?
Yep.
Oh,
yep.
You have help desk software with an AI agent?
Yeah.
I want to hear.
Yeah,
right?
totally.
Okay, so that's the first part. The piece underneath that of fun, now the novelty can be fun, but that's going to wear off really quickly.
Yep.
So you have to be careful it's not durable. Then you have to look at, well, what is durable and fun? And that's when you can come to game mechanics. And I found that game mechanics always work. When you can put them in the most boring product, points always work. Leaderboards always work.
Yep.
Achievement badges, you can just put them in the dumbest way and they seem to work. Even just making it video gamey, your app, that it just, when you click on things, it makes a fun noise. I mean, it's don't forget that this computing experience is so fucking boring. I mean, and our jobs are so boring. And the other thing that makes it fun is just variability. Like, surprise and delight was a big thing that we valued at Zynga. And put that on your wall. Like, how do you put surprise and delight? How do you, there's something I call a bold beat, like a positive disruption in this experience. If tomorrow people sign into the front page of your database app, and I mean, think about Slack. They said namaste, right? They had some word, they said hello in 50 different languages. So, it could be as simple as something like that. It could be, I always want to like kind of fuck with people a little bit. I thought it'd be fun if your Whoop or your Apple Watch got mad at you and
Totally.
said, you haven't worked out in days.
Yeah. Hey, fatty, like get moving.
Like, I'm not going to talk to you today.
Yeah, totally.
Like, do something non-intuitive. If your app just turned off and said, no, I'm not talking to you. And it could kind of frustrate you, but
you ate too many potato chips. I'm giving you the cold shoulder for a day. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, you haven't talked to me, I'm not going to talk to you. I mean, it's all so boring that I just think like try anything and kind of we're trying to find a pulse. It's like, because it's just the same thing, even Google's feeling lucky doesn't feel that interesting anymore.
Yeah. Well, what about group chats? So I'm in a bunch of these like WhatsApp group chats. WhatsApp sucks. Like it's like
I call it the Craigslist of messaging apps.
Yeah,
and
it's so bad. Like, why do we all use this thing? Like, it's so annoying. It's not fun.
And what Craig Newmark got right is that consumers do not like change.
Yeah,
we're not paying attention to WhatsApp, and so it's terrible, but it's our terrible.
Correct.
And ownership.
Yeah.
Craig took 2 years to add photos to Craigslist. Think about it. You're driving to go pick up someone's couch across town. Who doesn't want a photo?
Right.
It took 2 years, So on the one hand, consumers do not like change. On the other hand, I agree that WhatsApp is a terrible app that has no innovation, and we're trapped in it. And it's kind of shocking to me that it's still that bad. But at the same time, if some MBA changed your WhatsApp interface tomorrow and made it better, you and I would probably get angry because
of course
we were able to find things in the fucked up place that they're in.
Now, when you built Zynga, you kind of built it initially off of like a platform at that time as Facebook. Now, a lot of people are building things on top of like OpenAI or Anthropic. What have you learned? Like, what advice would you give to all these companies that are building on top of those two kind of new AI behemoths?
Well, it depends on, obviously, if it's consumer or B2B, but the advice I'm trying to give myself right now is, in the beginning, like, go for things that are painfully obvious. Like, don't be too fucking clever and innovative. Don't overthink it.
Yeah.
And I have this desire to go after things that are really hard, that are complex. And the reality is, the most successful things that I'm seeing, I think we're seeing, are people doing really obvious things. And mostly it's just a front end to, ChatGPT.
Just do it and do it quickly, and then like iterate after that. Don't worry about it.
Get in the market fast, engage with, go vertically deep faster than anybody else. It's go vertical, not horizontal, and do really obvious things, and start with something that you just like better than people think is better. It needs to be better for the next 5 minutes, not the next 5 months. And chances are, if it's better in the next 5 minutes, you'll probably keep being better in the next 5 months. But we don't know what it's going to look like in 5 months, so it's not worth building for 5 months out right now. And I think the most interesting startups I'm hearing about right now are these. You're probably hearing about them too, but these companies that are just going into people-intensive businesses, agency businesses, bureaus, service bureaus, and they're just applying ChatGPT to
totally
automate people's jobs. I mean, 20 years ago, it'd be called a VAR, a value-added
Yeah.
reseller,
Yeah.
and today
Yeah.
it's a SaaS AI startup in a vertical. It's a SaaS vertical. I think Gary Tan just wrote about it yesterday on Twitter.
But like, do you think like, because there are some certain economies like India and Philippines, which are very, very dependent on these outsourced businesses, like as an, I know if you put on your like macro investor hat, like, are these economies going to be hurt significantly from some of this stuff?
I it's I wouldn't want to make the call today as an investor because I think the landscape is going to shift more in the next 5 years than it has in the last 25 years.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
So I think 5 years out it'll be unrecognizable. And I'm always a long term I'm always more optimistic than everybody else. And short term I'm usually more pessimistic, although right now I'm not, which maybe should be a sell signal. But I would say that I think that what we're going to get out of this is massive growth. And so if you think about what did Web 1.0 give us, sure, did the newspapers and the classifieds get, cannibalized? Sure, but the real growth was eBay.
Yeah.
The real growth with eBay and Craigslist was massive new consumption.
Yep.
And here's my macro economist point of view. I believe that the reason why the stock market's gone up for so many decades and the reason why we've mostly had such low inflation, at least in the dollar, is, except for recent chapter, is that we don't know how to measure productivity anymore correctly. And that the amount that we are spending messaging and consuming content right now, no one's measuring that as part of the GDP, because other than like putting ads up, we don't know. You take Snapchat.
Yeah.
Which I'm a big bull. I very bullish long-term holder of Snapchat stock. It's amazing real estate that is massively undervalued.
Just in terms of like the dollar that they get per user per month. Yeah.
Right.
In terms of
The
ads.
monetization per DAU and MAU is probably, a small fraction of.
And why have they not been able to 2x their ad rate and stuff? And
well, they have massively increased their performance ad rate. They were very dependent on brand ads, which have gone sideways to down. Performance ads have grown, but it's hidden because there's such a bigger ad base on the brand ads. And their user pay has grown, I think, to like 500 or 600 million ARR in the last 14 months, and no one's paying attention. They have a subscription called Snap Plus. They have like 11 or 12 million paying subscribers.
oh wow.
But they have 450 million DAUs. They have amazing retention and engagement. Why is not there might just be part of it is I might have this wrong. I don't think the monetization is very good, on WhatsApp either. So messaging apps so far are not a great place, as good as a TikTok or an Instagram. But I also don't think monetization has ever been a priority for them. But bigger point at a macro level is that we don't know how to measure the economic value of the time that people are spending on Snapchat or even on TikTok, other than to say, well, how much is it being monetized as an ad right now? Or what? We're not even thinking what's the gap that it's not being monetized, and thinking of that as a hidden shadow GDP. So anyway, to come all the way back to your question, am I bullish or negative on these other economies that are kind of more human based? I'm both. I think they're going to shift. I think they're going to do better overall. I think India, the Philippines, I think they're going to see massive surges in the demand for human productivity, and there's going to be amazing AI tools to magnify them. But I think it's going to shift in what kinds of industries. I also think that knowledge workers, that well-trained Americans are going to do well too. I think everyone is ultimately going to do really well, but I think there's going to be massive, painful dislocations on the way.
And I mean, one of the things I admire about you, not just being a great entrepreneur, but you're one of those people who are also really good as an investor, and also weirdly as a public market investor. And to me, those skills do seem very different. Like, what has made you such a good public market investor?
Well, I don't know if I would call myself a good public market investor. It depends on how you define it. I had some great calls, and I'll sound like Chamath, and I'll take a victory lap. But I've sold almost all of them way, way, way too early. I mean, including Facebook. I mean, I had 9 million shares of Meta. Okay, I do not today have 9 million shares of Meta.
Yeah.
I spent $38,000 on my first investment for that. Okay, I should be, circling the globe in a SpaceX, rocket or something, and I'm not. I sold. I think Peter Thiel, I think Reed, I think all of us sold, way too early, and I never saw that could be a $1.5 trillion company. So I wouldn't give myself strong marks, in a very far up market.
Well, let's say you've made a lot of really good calls in the public market. Let's say like for 1 year, like a 1 year, maybe not a 20 year, but a 1 year thing. Okay, I'm going to invest in this thing, and then like 1 year later, it's gone up 10x or something.
Well, Bill Campbell coached me for a while. I was lucky enough, and he said that I was one of the best 18-month thinkers he had ever met. And he said, Mark, your magic powers, your superpowers, you can see around corners in 18 months. And so maybe that's what it is. But I would say, to go back to your first question, I think it is good to think about to be what I call full stack, to think about public markets all the way down to incubating, seed investing, because it is ultimately all related. At the end of the day, we're trying to create businesses that are durable and deliver, high sustainable cash flow margins. I start with a product that speaks to me and I'm obsessed with, and then I try to figure out, can it be high margin? I was basically all the money in Raya, and I was using Raya when I was single. And I like to say, if an app is on the front page of my iPhone, I think it has a stick value of a minimum of $1 billion. So I cold mailed Raya info, at rayaapp.com, said, I want to invest. And Jared Morgenstern emailed me back. He said, Pincus, I told you I was going to the company. Why didn't you email me? And so first I put up 3 million, and then my fund put up 11 million, and they're crushing it. They don't like me to talk about their metrics, but they have no marketing cost, and it's all viral, high margins. They have 60% DAUs to MAUs. I don't think I'm giving anything away, but they will also eventually, if they want, be, I think, a terrific public company, because they have such a durable audience base, and it flows through to their business. By thinking about all of this, let me turn your question around. I have low trust in the CEO of any public consumer internet company who's not the chief product officer of their company.
Yep.
Okay. And by the way, to my own detriment, I sold or collared all my stock in Take-Two when they bought Zynga, because I didn't understand Strauss, the CEO.
Yeah, Strauss is amazing. Yeah.
But I didn't understand him. I said, I don't get how someone who...
Because he's like a finance background or something, right?
But not just finance background. He's not a product guy. He's not the chief product officer. And he says, he's more Hollywood. He says, I support great talent. I help them be successful. He's done great. The stock is now higher than what it was when they bought Zynga. I collared and sold it at much lower prices, to my own detriment. I didn't understand it. Okay. I understand Snapchat because Evan is a brilliant
he's a generational product person.
Yeah. Zuck is a brilliant, product guy who also has understood business and how to flow through, and make massive cuts in his business. So, I'm looking for the unicorns where they can do all of that. And I have moments, I think, where Wall Street gets it so wrong, and where I think I've had some good calls is like, I called the ball on Twitter when they were a $12 stock, and every analyst had to sell. And I said, this is a drawer stock. In 10 years, I'll be using Twitter to get my news. And I know I won't be using Facebook, and I probably won't be using Instagram, but I know I'll be using Twitter. So I thought their day 365 retention of me, and a lot of people like me, is going to be really, really high. All I have to worry about is, can they eventually monetize us through ads? Yeah, I think they can. So I said, I don't care, I don't care about their multiple of EBITDA today. I just think, they're worth $9 billion. They had terrible stock-based comp. They were making $800 million a year. They're paying out $800 million a year in SBC. And so it made no sense, but I bought it and tweeted it, and Jack Dorsey retweeted it because that was the only positive. And then the other thing I'd like to do, I'll just give you a little hack if any of your listeners want to day trade. If there's a company that you believe is a drawer stock or generational company, and they announce bad earnings, if they still have a founder at the helm and they get crushed, you might have a generational buying opportunity. We saw that 2 years ago with Meta.
Yeah.
They had a terrible quarter, right?
Yeah, that was incredible buying opportunity. Yeah.
And I will honestly say, I bought the stock. I bottom ticked it at 89. Okay. You also had that opportunity with Spotify. They traded below their IPO price. They went down to $85 a share. Daniel Ek bought the stock himself all the way up to like 110 a share.
Yeah.
It's these are hiding in plain sight.
You can just go through the list of, especially recently, AppLovin was just such a great buy, right? Because generational founder, right? So you just have these you have ones
Roblox.
Roblox.
4 or 5 months ago, they had a bad quarter. The stock went to 30, 32. It was just a no-brainer. Like, it just close your eyes and pull the trigger. I mean,
all right, now, I don't know if you remember this, but we met 2001, long time ago. And I literally remember meeting it for the very first time. And you just sat me down and you said, Oren, you need to buy the stock in Choreo. I don't even know if you remember Choreo. It was this fallen.com. And you just put a bunch of money into it. And at the time, it was 50 cents a share. I thought you were crazy. And I did not follow through or buy the stock. But I followed it because I'm like, okay, this crazy guy, Mark, told me to buy it. And it went up I think it went up to $10. It went up from 50 cents to $10 in like 6 months. It was like a 20x return. And okay, since then, I've always just thought you were just like the most brilliant investor. But that was not like the founder had left. It was there was, all these problems.
Well, I call companies like Choreo, I lovingly call them broken internet companies.
Yeah.
And I have a strategy that if it's
at the time, I think it was trading below cash or something.
If the founder is still there or owns a lot of it, has influence, sometimes you get a ghost ship, which is what Twitter became. But if the founder is still there and has influence, and it just makes no sense, you can just back up the truck as long as they have a durable, franchise or business, and these, usually do, pay off. And you're going to probably make at least 50% when they just right the ship. I mean, when I came back to Zynga in 2015, the day we announced that I came back as CEO, the stock went from like 4 to 2 something, went down to $1.75. We were trading for like cash in the bank.
Right. That would have been such an obvious buying opportunity. Yeah.
Yeah. Just back up the truck. When Steve Jobs came back to Apple, traded for cash in the bank. It was like, you're getting a phenomenal, one of the world's greatest founder product guy for free. They were trading for $8 billion, they had $8 billion in cash. It's like, it's you get this had a free call option. So yeah, so and by the way, I do tweet these when I say I'm back at the
You do.
I always tweet it. I tweeted about PayPal, Snap, Twitter. So
you're very generous with telling people to follow your things, but you've never done a public fund or anything.
No, I don't think I would be well suited for that because I go through so much volatility. Look at my Snapchat position. I mean, I think my average is like 8.20 a share. I just bought more of it. By the way, it just went down below 9 again. I bought around like 8.70. I bought up to 9.50. But it's so volatile. And during the pandemic, it went to 70. It went from 6.70 a share to 70, back down. It's been trading between like 8 and 16 or 17, and Wall Street, the hedge fund people like it, then it doesn't deliver in the short term, then they all dump it. And I just think if you're willing to sit through that volatility, you're going to get rewarded over 3 years or 5 years. It's really hard for a hedge fund, though.
Yeah, totally.
They don't want to show that
want to do that.
50%. I mean, right now, I own Alibaba, right? That's a really risky stock. If things work out between Trump and China, and he's just trying to cut a good deal, it could be like one of the great stock buys of all time. And if it doesn't, it could really
right.
Yeah, so
the nice thing about investing your own money is you could invest it a different, more long-term way, and you could take different risks than if you're investing other people's money.
Yeah, and sometimes you get things that I think are just an absolute no-brainer. Like January of last year, I backed up the truck and bought a big position in Google because they were trading for, I think, I don't know, like 15 to 17 times EBITDA. And there was a headwind because of AI.
Yeah.
They hadn't made any AI announcement.
Yeah, and they're still growing super fast. Yeah.
Yeah, they were growing at like 20%. And everyone thought they were going to get rolled over, because of AI. And I was like, no way, this is going to make people more interested in search.
Yeah.
And there's no way Google does not have AI stuff to announce. So I thought you're clearly going to get an AI boost, even if in the long run you're wrong. So I thought that was not huge upside. I mean, it's actually up like 60 or 70%, but I thought you had like kind of a guaranteed, 15% a year.
Interesting.
I sound like a stock, more like sometimes I could sound like I'm, I don't know, a hedge fund manager.
A couple questions I would love to ask folks, but I think for yours, I think it'd be particularly interesting. What is a conspiracy theory that you believe?
God, let's see. I've had, there's a few different categories. Okay, let me start with the most obvious. Well, I believe, and this, maybe it's become so mainstream that this is not that interesting and not that embarrassing. I guess if I'm not embarrassed to say it, it's not a good conspiracy theory.
Correct. Yes.
So I've believed for a while that there is a high percent probability that UFOs are real.
Yeah.
And I would put it at, I believe there's a 50% or more chance that UAPs and some higher consciousness is real, but we're just not able to understand it yet. And I believe there's about an 80 to 90% chance that the government has intentionally or unintentionally been covering this up for a long time.
Okay.
And some of it is
the second one is the conspiracy theory, right?
Right.
Yeah.
They kind of go together, but yes.
Yeah.
So, and I think I'd also say other ones. I think that Trump, I heard him on Joe Rogan. I think he knows something that he legally can't tell us. I think I'm excited about like JFK's assassination. Mm-hmm. When he said he's going to um, you know, make all of these confidential documents and files, public record. I think there's some more to that that'll be interesting twists that is it as far as the CIA being, I doubt it's as far as the CIA being behind, JFK's assassination. It's probably, but I'll bet you it's much murkier. I'll bet you that there were really obvious lapses on the part of the CIA that were covered up, and for years it hasn't been in their interest. Then part of it is
why this is like, so this happens, assassination happens in 1963, and then the Warren Commission comes in, and then they basically say, okay, for 75 years, which is 2038, right? You can't release this. I can understand for 20 years, but 75 years just seems so long. I don't even.
Well, obviously they were trying to think of somebody's longest lifespan, right? So
yeah. But I guess there were maybe 20 at the time, and they're gonna live to 95 or something.
They hope they'd get to live longer.
Yeah.
So they're like, I want to get padded a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think the only reason you do that, right, is that it'll be, or even beyond the humans, those individuals, it could be that it's so embarrassing for those institutions that there could be a public outcry to take away the power of those institutions.
Yeah.
And that gets to kind of the deep state question, which I don't really believe that there is an actual deep state. I just believe that there is these institutions that are more committed to their own longevity than to the public. So do you know what I mean? I don't think there's
that's not even a conspiracy. That has to be true, right? Yeah. Right. People that's the way people are, right?
Well, I just think that nobody questions the first principles of, well, what was the point of the CIA and the FBI and these different groups? And if we get to the point that the CIA is clearly guilty of spying on American citizens, are there a few bad apples, or has the institution just lost its accountability to the public, to the people? Have they gotten so far beyond any form of accountability? So that's what I mean, is the deep state is more the institutions have lost their accountability. But anyway, I guess I don't have super interesting conspiracies because they've, I think a few years ago, saying that you believed in UAPs would have been more, embarrassing.
Definitely. It would have been super embarrassing a few years ago. It's interesting how that has shifted so much in the last few years.
It's just normalized. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, oh yeah. And I guess I don't agree with RFK. I don't, Peter Thiel said it really well on Barry Weiss's podcast that the way my mom asked me over Thanksgiving, how can you be okay with RFK saying that vaccines are just a conspiracy and that you really want to get rid of the polio vaccine? And I said, I don't agree at the surface with what he's saying, but I'm glad he's skeptical. I'm glad people are asking questions.
Yeah.
And Peter said, we don't want to be too dogmatic. We don't want to be too skeptical, but we've been too dogmatic. And we're just leaving this. The reason I'm so happy that, and I publicly supported Trump to my own detriment. The reason I'm happy about it culturally is because it's finally okay for us to question the grown-ups, to question the government. And that's what I like about any conspiracy theory. I'm open to them all.
Yeah.
It's open season on skepticism. And, my brother-in-law and sister-in-law work in, a government agency, and their heart's in a great place, and they got real work ethics, and they do great work. And, they said, we don't like that now government workers are just seen as bad. And I said, I don't fundamentally see anyone who works in the government as bad. I see the institutions have lost accountability, and they've lost connection with the first principles. It's just like when Elon came into Twitter, I'm sure most people he got rid of were good people who will be good in another job, they just weren't good at Twitter anymore because there was no one running the show. Like the ship, it was a ghost ship. And I feel like the government, I'm kind of veering off, but I think the government has become this ghost ship like so many companies have. And I just said, it's not good for any organization. It's healthy for every organization to have people come in who are skeptical. That used to be private equity
Totally.
people.
Duh. It's interesting too, like
there's
this idea that like, oh, there was this idea we should trust the expert.
Yeah.
And
how dare you, Oren, the press, the Kara Swishers of the world would sit where the loudest voice is saying to all of us, stay in your swim lane. Mark, Oren, no one wants to hear from you what your opinion is on you're not when did it become the sole domain of the political class and the pundits? It used to be that, with George Washington, you were supposed to be a leader in industry or somewhere,
right, or something else,
or in science or somewhere, and you'd go do a stint. And now it's, Daniel Lurie has never served in public office, so he's risky. I'm like, why is that riskier than someone who's never run an organization in their life? I'm like, totally. I don't get that.
It's also like the expert thing is also funny. Like there are people who are clear experts, right? Like if I want to fix the motor of my car, there's like a clear expert who like knows how to do that and will do a much better job than I would, and like has done it 100 times before. And like, I would gladly defer to that person. But that same person is not going to tell me how to fix like the congestion transportation problem of the United States. Like just because they know a lot about an individual car does not mean they're going to like be, and that's what we like. It's like we have this doctor, they know a lot about like helping somebody, like if they broke their arm, fixing their arm. But then it's like, oh, but like we're also going to trust the doctor to solve like the health crisis of the entire America. Right. I'm like, that doesn't translate. I don't know why one should translate to the other.
No, it's there's threads in these things that are useful. Like for me, I said, I don't trust or understand the CEO of a consumer internet product company who's not a product person. Okay, so I get that you need to have a good understanding and empathy around whatever your product is. But a good CEO, like Strauss, is able to surround themselves with experts and do a good job of listening to those people. And so, and I'm kind of veering, I guess, towards politics. I saw no evidence, that Kamala was a good CEO. And I see a lot of evidence, knowing Daniel Lurie, that he will be a good CEO. He's a listener. The first thing I want to see in a CEO is a desire to, listen to people with, humility and modesty. So anyway,
this is great. I love it. All right. Last question we ask all of our guests. What conventional wisdom or advice do you think is generally bad advice?
Well, okay, here's my global one that I've found to be true. It may be bad advice for you to slow down and really think carefully before you tweet. So everyone looks at Trump as being so awful for like putting up, and Elon. It's at least more fun. Since April, I had a chief of staff for 9 years, Dan Guerin, who protected me from myself. I put up tweets. He'd say, "Mark, you have to take that down." and I like to say half the time he was clearly right. And since April, I've just been tweeting whatever I want, to say, whatever I think about.
Even under the influence at 3 a.m. type of thing? Or
well, with soon to be 5 kids, I don't have that many of those moments, but I seem to be able to put up equally dumb things at 3 p.m. And I'm just putting up things. And occasionally I do delete it if I come back and I'm like, oh yeah, that's pretty. Or sometimes people in the comments will say, Mark, you just retweeted or put up something that's actually proven to be wrong. And I say, oh, I take it down. But But I'll give you an example. I was really pissed off. I checked into my hotel room in Chicago at the Peninsula, and it was late. It was like 12:30 at night, and I'm the only person there at the front desk, and I'm just watching them type and type and type, and I was just like, what the fuck are they doing? And so I tweeted while I was standing there, why is it so difficult? Why is it that the nicer the hotel is, the longer it takes them to check me in? Why can a roadside motel text me a lockbox number and, for a $30 or $40 a night room? And why do I have to go through this? Do they not know I was coming? Do they not trust me? They need an 8 signature. And that was the second most viral tweet I've ever put up. And that was just me being cranky.
By the way, like, why is it so? Like, why? Like, you think like if it's super high end hotel, they would.
There's a startup here.
Yeah,
okay,
they should meet you at the if they can't get your mobile key to work because those things never work. Like, they should just meet you at the door as you're walking in. It's a high end hotel and say, Mr. Pincus, here's your key. You're in room 412.
100%. So if I was creating
do you need help with your
hotel,
bags, Mr. Pincus? You're like, no, I don't need help with my bags. I just want to go straight to my room. Great. And by the way, like, that TV is not going to be on when you show up. Like, who wants the TV on? That fucking TV.
Yes. Like, I said 0 out of 10 people are thankful that the TV is on the Barker channel, and they have to now look for the clicker at 1 a.m.
Totally.
to figure out how to turn the fucking TV off. Yes. There's so many obvious things, and they've just lost the plot thread.
And by the way, and there's going to be like plugs right by your bed, and it's going to be easy. And
why can't forget about a plug? How about a charger?
Right.
It's a high-end hotel.
Right.
It can't cost that much money.
Right.
Ooh,
if the hotel is charging more than $1,000 a night, like, why can't they spend like $10 to have someone meet you at the door and give you your key?
So Oren, if I was creating a new version of the Peninsula,
we're talking about proven, better, new, proven. Everyone likes hotels. It's proven. Okay.
Better. We could go and ask your listeners, but I think that 10 out of 10 people would say fuck yes to this. 0 people at the front. You have a few people at the front desk, maybe, and it's just concierge. When this is for a high-end hotel, you have 10 to 15 people. You really staff up at the front door.
Yeah.
You've got you're swarmed. So there's more people out there at the front door, bellhops and people, than there are guests coming in.
Yeah.
When you get there, maybe if it's your second time, they know your name.
Yeah.
Okay.
You could just tell them you're coming somehow. Like, and they see you're showing up. Like, whatever.
They know you're coming, right? Yeah. Okay. They know your name. Worst case scenario, you have to say to someone, "Oh, hi, I'm Mark Pincus checking in." They go, "Great." Worst case scenario, they have to type you into a thing like an Apple Pay kind of term, an iPhone. But they've got your key already. They're expecting you. They hand you your keys and they say, "What can we do for you? What would help you most right now? Do you want us to take your bags? Do you want to just leave them with us? We'll take them up to your room. Anything we can do? Otherwise, have a great stay. I sent you a text in case you have any questions while you're here.
Yeah.
You can text me to get you reservations and things. There's just a text, which is team@Peninsula or team, it goes to anyone on our team. If we ever take more than 5 minutes to text you back, let us know, room service, anything. This is so easy and obvious, right?
Oh my gosh. It's so, all these things are so obvious. And you're completely right, by the way. Like, there's no correlation to price and service. You think like, oh, it'd be easier to get in my room.
It's inverse.
It's inverse.
You go on a road trip. You go on a road trip and they are texting you. There's so many cases where I would pay more for self-service. Like, if someone's going to first principles,
right, or just like print out my key if I had to. I'll just go print it out. Right.
So there's a great if you were interviewing someone to be a product manager, you'd say, apply proven, better, new to the hotel experience.
Right. So
at
easy.
The high end.
Yeah.
You go to first principles and you'd say, what do I want at every moment to moment when I check in? When I get to my room, what's the out-of-box experience of entering my room? What's your experience of going to bed, of getting up in the morning? I don't want to have to remember to put the do not disturb sign out, or some woman is walking in my room while I'm naked getting out of the shower, like that's not my fault. That's a bug,
Right.
not a feature for most people. So there's so many obvious things, and there's places you can give me surprise and delight, right?
Yeah.
If you gave
Yeah,
me,
by the way, like, why they know there's emotion that like, why can't they know that there's someone in the room? They should be able to know that all
and
the
it's
people have left the
because
room.
hotels are really a real estate play, and this is why it doesn't take the smartest people to build, and own, hotels, because it's a real estate play, right?
Yeah. Yep.
It's not the smartest people, do well in real estate. Like you own
You
real
own
estate
and
in
you
the
keep
right
and you hold
place.
it. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, it's because you and I probably are still going to go stay at whatever the hotel is, even though they give us this shit experience. But at the margin, I would pick a different hotel and I would talk about it. And people care, because I saw Ryan from Flexport tweeted a couple days ago. Here's how much people care about this. He put up a tweet, same thing as me, about why our hotel is this bad. I put up a reply. My reply is up to 2,000 likes.
Oh, wow.
Just people have a lot of emotion. And when
Totally. Yeah.
it's a great sign of signal, there's a gap. These people are corporate. And I like to say corporate stands for lack of thought or intent. No one ever thought corporate was a good word.
Yes.
Like, Warren, you really seem corporate lately.
Totally. Yeah.
Oh,
It's
not
a compliment.
corporate.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
this has been amazing. Thank you, Mark Pincus, for joining us on World of DaaS podcast. Speaking of Twitter, I follow you at Mark Pink. I definitely encourage our listeners to engage with you there. You always have very interesting things to say, and I really appreciate you coming on.
fun.
Thanks for listening. If you haven't already done so, please subscribe to World of DaaS wherever you consume your podcasts, YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and more. And please help us get discovered by leaving a review. And check out worldofdaas.com. That's worldofdaas.com. And of course, connect with me on Twitter at Auren. That's AUREN. Would absolutely love to hear from you.